I am here today with a very interesting guest. I'm here with Fintan Murphy, hailing from nowhere else than beautiful Ireland. And basically, I'm going to be speaking with Fintan about digital growth. Also, obviously, since DamsonCloud, the company he's heading up, is companies all over the place to get up into the cloud. We're going to be learning, what does it take? How do they support the businesses they're working with, and what has it to do with their, working out of the Google spaces? So, Fenton, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for the introduction, Lucas. Yeah, coming at you here from rainy Ireland and beautiful as well. But I think that's why Ireland is known for its green beauty. It's because of the precipitation that we get. So yeah, as you were saying, company is DamsonCloud, and yeah, thanks for having us on the podcast.
Yeah, so maybe give us sort of that overview. What is the business all about in your own words?
Yeah, sure. So we've been a Google partner for over 10 years, which is kind of unusual. There are a few other companies with that kind of claim to a 10-year plus title, but it's it's one of those things where we were sort of selling the cloud before it was cool. And we help organizations in many different areas, primarily around sort of digital transformation. And our three kind of pillars are migrate, secure, and transform. So we help organizations move to the cloud. So if they are on a traditional system, then we help them move their data and information over to the cloud. But we also migrate their team as well, because that's really, really important. Change management is considered now by Google and by partners to be 40% of a project. So it's actually the most important area, is getting that change management right, making sure that you're bringing people with you on your digital transformation journey. And then the security element we tend to do with our current customers, obviously with new customers we've onboarded. And also with companies who maybe been on Google for a while, they want to ensure that the settings, the processes and procedures that they have in place around security are as secure as they can be. I think security in the cloud is different as well. Traditional security is that sort of build a moat around my business and hopefully try to stop all the intruders from getting in. Whereas the cloud is different. It's distributed. It's more around devices and users and user security, making sure people have things like two-step verification and use things like maybe the second-step verification is often recommended that you use one of those keys, physical keys, is the most secure way. So the security element is really important to customers. The bit that I get super excited about, obviously migrating and securing are fundamental, but I get excited about the digital transformation piece and helping organizations transform their workflows, looking at old business processes that they might have and seeing, is there a way that, okay, you can move this to the cloud and you can do it in the same way, but maybe this is an opportunity to change how you're doing it. Maybe this is an opportunity to make this process more efficient, more effective, and helping teams collaborate and communicate more effectively. And that probably leads on to the last part of the business around the transformation, which is becoming way more important right now, where we've all experienced remote working now with COVID last year and this year. And I think people's ways of communicating have changed. They moved from everybody being in one place in an office to everybody being remote. And now we're moving into a third phase as everybody hopefully gets vaccinated. We're moving to a phase of a hybrid system. And that's the reality of the world now, that people are going to be in a hybrid working environment where maybe half the team are at home working remotely and half the team are in the office. How do you maintain company culture? How do you maintain effective communication when some of your team are working remotely and some of your team are in the office, maybe on different days? Maybe Mary and Bob are in the office on Tuesdays and John and Paul are in the office on Thursdays and Fridays, and so they never meet each other. How do you maintain that team environment and communication? So internal communications tools that we've started to resell in the last few years. Hapio is one of them, Google Sites, Lumapps. These are all digital workspace solutions that help organizations build not just an intranet. Intranet is the old word for it, but a truly digital workspace where people can effectively communicate from anywhere. And I think that internal communication, IC as it's sometimes called, companies that get that right are going to succeed in 2021 and beyond, and the ones that don't are going to suffer. And I think, we're here to help organizations with that, but we've seen huge interest from companies in that area, and yeah, we've been, as I said, knocking around for a long time, doing all of these things. What we've done has sort of changed, over time, but that's kind of effectively what we help our customers with. So
very cool. Yeah, super interesting that you bring up that, it's not just the technology, it's how the people get along using the technology so that it actually becomes a reality. Very cool.
The change management is super important too.
Who would you say are the typical clients that you would be working with? How should we sort of imagine, a typical DamsonCloud client?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and has changed over the years as well. I think in the early part of our business, it was primarily, very small companies. We moved into the kind of what Google called the mid-market, or enterprise space. And now our customers would range from, sort of small businesses with 50 employees right up to businesses with thousands and thousands of customers. And, companies that of ours that you might know in Ireland would be like companies like Morgan McKinley, in the UK, Kazoo and Zoopla or ZPG. Anyone who's ever looked for a house in the UK will be familiar with the Zoopla website, and Daft here in Ireland is also a customer of ours. So our customers range really in sort of size, but in the smaller businesses, we're working with maybe the business owner often, and in larger organizations, it tends to be an IT team or an IT manager or an IT team perhaps, and we're working with them to help them. If they're not on Google, then as I said, the migrate security kind of piece, and we're supporting them on a regular basis. Our customers we would communicate with on a very regular basis, on a weekly basis, really, with many of them. And what a lot of IT teams find is that how they're viewed has changed when they move to Google. So they move from sort of being the break fix guys to being the viewed as the department that can help people innovate and collaborate better. And so that's quite interesting, and it's exciting for a lot of companies and a lot of IT teams, and we really help them with that. So our customers really range from the sort of 50 to 5,000 employees. It's the whole kind of gambit, really.
Makes sense. I would be curious, what would you say is like the typical journey, right, of somebody, getting to know your company, getting to know DamsonCloud? Like, what is maybe the key acquisition channels or the journey that somebody goes through in order to get to know you guys and getting started?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question, because we actually ran a summit this time last year called the G Suite Customer Journey Summit. And it was literally about that, that sort of journey that companies say, because it is a journey, do you know what I mean, to moving to the cloud and changing the way that you work. And that's really our goal as a business, separate from the tools. Our goal is to help organizations change how they work. That's really, our purpose. Often it would start off, there are two types of customers that come to us, really. Those that are already on Google and are using it, or maybe have reached some challenge. Sometimes they've grown so big that before they were able to manage it on their own, now they need some sort of Google partner to actually help them effectively manage their environment. Sometimes it might be a larger company that maybe has now had some sort of security challenges or issues, and again, they want to bring in an expert. And then the other side is companies that are maybe using another product like Microsoft or IBM Lotus Notes. There's still a few companies still using that, and they're looking to move away from that solution. And they're often in that evaluation stage, where they're actually like, is this the right solution for us? And they're looking for, to come to someone like us who's an expert in this space, and really leverage our knowledge. Because I always say, your business, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, we know Google and we know digital transformation, and it's the combination of those two things. I don't know your business, but I'm here to discover as much as I can about it, and to try to see if there is a fit for this solution. And the moving to a new system like Google, you're changing your email platform, you're changing your document collaboration platform. It's not a small decision, and with the larger companies, it can often take 6 months, 12 months, maybe even 18 months sales cycle. So, for enterprises, you're talking about 1,000 employees, 2,000 employees. deciding to change the email platform that a company uses is not, a small decision. And it's not transactional. I always say it's not like buying a Mars bar. You're not going in and buying it and you're never going to see them again. If you sell the product, if I sell Google Workspace to you, or G Suite as it used to be known, they rebranded last year, and I tell you that it does these things, it does X and Y and Z, then it better do those things, because we have a recurring revenue model for our business. You're buying a SaaS product from us on an annual basis. I want you to stay and maintain being a customer for a long time. So you're going to figure out fairly quickly if it doesn't do what I said it was going to do. And so, that lends itself, I think, to honesty and transparency and trust, which is, really what is fundamental to us as a business. And it means that because it's a relationship you're building, and it's a recurring, it's a recurring cost for the business, but a recurring relationship as well. It means that you've really got to get that evaluation right, because otherwise someone's just going to move over. They're going to figure out that, it doesn't do what they want, and they're going to move away to another product. So you've really got to do, and that's the change management piece. You've really got to do that piece correctly. Do you know what I mean? And take people on that journey from, I'm thinking about this, I'm trying to make a decision, is this right for my business? And help them with that evaluation in an honest way. I'll often be the first to say to someone, you know what, Google isn't right for you. And that can often shock potential prospects or customers, where I'm saying, well, actually, listening to what you're saying, I actually think Microsoft would be the best solution for you. And that can surprise people, but it doesn't make sense for me to continue down that path if they're not willing to invest in change management, if they're not, if they don't see the value of the platform or product that we're selling in Google. So it is really important to do that evaluation piece and take people on that journey. And I think we often find that it falls into certain categories. Like, there are definitely industries that were will not more prone to Google, but sort of lean more towards Google more easily. Technology companies is a good example. If you named 10 of the top technology companies in the world, you can be pretty much guaranteed, 90% of them are going to be using Google. Do you know what I mean? If you named most of the newspapers and media companies in the UK, most of them use Google. Do you know what I mean? So not to say other industries, don't, but it's just, there are definite industries that are kind of, Google has kind of, got more traction or saturation in that space. And the technology one is interesting. Do you know what I mean? If you look at companies like Netflix and Uber and, all of these companies that people often want to be like, Airbnb, Twitter, all of these companies are using Google Workspace within their businesses to help their teams collaborate, more effectively and faster. So I think that's always interesting when companies can be apprehensive maybe about Google, and then there's another part of them that wants to be like these other innovative companies, but sometimes they can be apprehensive about Google. And in actual fact, if they looked at the tools that these companies were using, they'd realize that in a lot of cases it's solutions like Google's.
Very good. Super, super interesting. Definitely shares sort of, the thought process, or shows the short thought process that people go through when deciding for one the other solution. But I would be curious, right, from, a DamsonCloud perspective. We talk a lot about websites on the podcast, obviously, sort of given also the nature of the platform has. What role do you attribute to your own website in terms of client generation? What place does it take in that orchestra of
sorry, you kind of asked me about where our opportunities often come from, and I didn't cover that. And I think they come from a couple of different areas. Obviously, we're a partner of Google, so an element, a percentage comes from Google, and that's an important relationship that we nurture. The other part is referrals from our own customer base. So we often feel that we must be doing something right if people are referring us on, and that's great. Often it's when an IT person maybe moves to another company, and they often move to a business that also uses Google or is implementing Google as a solution, and so they'll bring us in then and introduce us. So that's where definitely 2/3 of our sort of leads come from. And then the other would really be social and website. you may have noticed from our website, we're big into video, and we do a lot of, we do weekly videos, actually. I say we, it's primarily me, although we have a new marketing person starting next week, so I will have some help soon. But you know, video content and sort of producing content that's, you know, I think you guys do this as well with, you know, with your podcast and things like that, creating content that's valuable to people for free. Do you know what I mean? That you're sort of saying, this is how you use, you know, the product. This is maybe how you could use Google Sites, or how you could use Google Drive. And so, you know, we give away that sort of baseline free advice, and we become that trusted advisor to people, you know, in the hopes that some people, a percentage, will say, well, you know, I think we might use Damson's services, or we may, you know, look to engage them, and that's generally what happens. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes our leads come from, you know, YouTube or LinkedIn via our videos, and eventually, you know, from a funnel point of view, people land on our website. I definitely think video is going to become more important, and has done over the last few years. And I think it's getting to a stage where, like, kind of every business really has to have some sort of video presence. It's almost odd if you don't. You know, not necessarily weekly videos, but, you know, there has to be some sort of video case studies or something on people's websites that sort of showcase who they are, and it helps people connect. I have interesting conversations with people, and they ring up here, and I answer the phone, and people, I you know, I say it's me. People are like, oh, Fintan, oh, hey. And I was just watching one of your videos, and they talk to me as if like we're friends, or we're all friends, which is great. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know who they are. Sometimes they forget to introduce themselves, which is very funny, because they've watched a few of the videos, and obviously they kind of feel like, well, that's John. And I'm like, okay, John from where? What? You know, and that's great. So it shows the engagement of video. That said, you know, obviously we are doing a podcast. I think audio is becoming important too. You know, we've got products like Clubhouse that are changing, you know, people's perception of stuff like audio. I'm a huge podcast fan, so I think it's a different medium, and you communicate different things. Do you know what I mean? It depends on whether what you're communicating obviously is visual, or sort of conversation, discussion based things. Definitely, I end my evening with a podcast.
Very good. Yeah, you spoke about the videos on the website, sort of that effect of people getting to know you. On the flip side, like, where do you see room for improvement for the website? You know, what's one thing that you would want to work on? Is it the ability, you know, the conversions, maybe the quality of the leads, the experience? Like, you know, what's something that you have an eye on for the website?
Yeah, definitely all of those, probably. I think for us, yeah, the conversions, I'm sure we get people to the site that we aren't picking up on. Do you know what I mean? We used to use HubSpot a good few years ago now, and almost our strategy has caught up with HubSpot. Like, so we used our tools like that, where we used that 3 or 4 years ago. Google had a program they're running where you kind of got it for free for a year, which was amazing for Google partners. But we didn't produce any content at the time, really. Do you know what I mean? We didn't produce any blogs. We weren't doing video, and so I think it was difficult for us to sort of have a funnel without, you know, in that way, the sort of inbound funnel, without sort of producing regular content. And now it's sort of come full circle, where we're producing the content, but actually we haven't implemented any sort of system like that of any significance on the website. We have some forms and things like that, but I definitely think we need a way of, you know, we've got a newsletter, but we could probably do with improving that conversion rate through nurturing, you know, people who come to the website. I know we added a chat feature, which was useful, and that got some engagement. And so I think things like that, I don't fully know the PathMonk system, but you know, systems like that can sort of nurture and give people the correct information at the right point. Do you know what I mean? As I said, along the journey, people require different information. And so I think we definitely need to kind of work on implementing that, and you know, making that connection with people, whether it's just gathering an email address, or, you know, a download, or whatever the case may be. I think we do need to look at that. Before, as I said, we didn't really have the content to make a a good stab at it, I suppose. Whereas now we do, and that's really our goal for 2021, is to improve the website and conversions, and make it more valuable as a lead generation for ourselves, and more structured. Do you know what I mean? I think it's I started the YouTube channel like a year and a half, 2 years ago, almost as a side project, and now it's become the primary way we market. And our team has grown significantly. Our team has more than tripled since last year, late last year. So we've had significant growth last year, and I think we're only now sort of starting to put some structures in place around things like that. Do you know what I mean? So
very good, very cool.
Lots of change.
Yeah, very good. I mean, lots of moving pieces, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Since we're slowly coming to an end of the interview, I want to learn a little bit about you, right, as a leader in the company. I'm curious, given all the moving pieces that you described, we spoke about the many hats somebody, is wearing.
Small business owners, multiple hats.
Exactly. What type of content do you consume? Like, where do you educate yourself? Like, where do you, how do you filter, and what do you decide to consume?
It's an interesting question, and it's something actually we asked in some recent interviews. How do you keep up to date with things? YouTube is a big one for me. I'm a big YouTube fan, obviously. It's a tool we utilize ourselves. So I'd subscribe to many channels. Other Google partners, if people are in the Google space and you haven't come across DamsonCloud, obviously look us up on our channel. But also Chanel Greco is fantastic if you like more technical stuff. She does a range of things, but she's a fantastic YouTube channel. Started in the middle of the coronavirus at nothing, and now she's 3,000 subscribers, I think, the last time I looked. So very, very successful. Kimberly IT is a great another Google partner. They do some great stuff. They've got some podcasts, and they also have it on their YouTube channel, so I'd subscribe to their stuff. Cobry as well in Scotland have some other good things. So other Google partners who are sort of in our space, and they would produce good content. I'd always subscribe to their stuff and support their stuff. And then Google themselves, obviously Google's blog, I would read on a weekly basis, sometimes daily, depending on how many updates they have. Webinars, another big one for us in our industry. There would be, often webinars to keep us up to date with products and product roadmaps and things like that. And then I'm a huge podcast fan myself. Do you know what I mean? So I would subscribe to a lot of podcasts around kind of business related stuff, and also just personally as well. I'm big into politics, so I listen to a lot of NPR stuff in the US for US politics and local politics as well here in Ireland. So there's kind of a range of stuff, but the podcasts are normally for the evening. Do you know what I mean? After work.
Very good. Since we're slowly coming to an end of the interview, I would love to jump into our rapid fire questions. Are you ready for those?
Yeah. Go.
Very, very good. What's the last book you read?
The last book I read, oh my God. I'm reading one at the minute, actually. I'm not going to remember the name, but I think it's called The Social Dilemma. And it's basically about how this guy uses social engineering. And I think it's interesting from a techie point of view, because, excuse me, it's interesting from a technical point of view, because often we hear about hacking from a technical standpoint. This is about social hacking. I've definitely gotten the name wrong, but it's a really interesting book. So,
okay, very good. If there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be the one thing you wanted to have fixed for DamsonCloud today?
No boundaries in technology. An AI that could be the CEO and run the business for me. That would be amazing. And then I could just go off and just paddleboard or something.
Very, very cool. Very last question. If today would be your very first day working on DamsonCloud, what's the one advice that you would give yourself?
Oh, wow. That is an interesting question. I think it would be to go all in on the cloud, not to hold back, and to trust your gut, I suppose. If I could only give myself one sentence.
Very good. Fintan, I really appreciate that you were part of Pathmark Presents with us today. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody forgets everything just that we discussed today in this interview, what would be the one thing that they should remember about DamsonCloud?
We help you transform the way that you work. So yeah, get in touch.
Very solid. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.